Hello, everyone, and welcome to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 252. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, along with Johnny V. What do you think this is? A Target cash register? Can we get things up and running here, please?
It's kind of funny. I was just telling you earlier today, we use Gmail as our back end for a lot of stuff at work and here. And the past 2 days, Gmail has had global outages for things. Yesterday, there was Gmail delays of up to, like, your emails were getting delayed up to like 25 minutes. People were complaining. And today, Google tweeted out like, hey, look, we have the best calendar system in the world. And within an hour, their entire calendar worldwide crashed.
You have to wonder if there was someone that was like, you know what? I'm sitting on this virus or this bug, or I'm sitting on something just to bring down the calendar system, or I know I can. No better time to do it than after they've just, pounded their own chest.
Literally within an hour. It was pretty funny. So
Sounds
today,
like a setup.
it does kind of feel like a setup. And but ultimately we're back live. We're going, and that's what we do here.
Yeah, I guess that's what we do.
The other funny thing was today on the Disc Golf Answer Man, I was watching their live podcast, and they got through their podcast fine, and then they got to their after show thing.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kept locking up on them. Like Bobby would try to talk about their 12 or 13 discs that were being retired, and the stream would freeze, and then they'd come back for a second, and he'd start talking, and the stream would freeze. And I was giving him a hard time, saying that we don't run into those issues on Smashbox.
Well, yeah, clearly not. So it sounds like you set us up well for that.
I did. I know. I said clearly this is not a. It's a Disc Golf Answer Man problem, not a Smashbox problem. Never Smashbox.
Yeah. Everything's so smooth and flawless. Well, I see a super chatter already under the username of Stupid Dakini. Nonetheless, you get your shout out. We appreciate the super chat. Thank you so much for doing so. So tonight, a little bit. Well, for starters, we're going to be international. I mean, no big deal. But so we're going to be international for a little while. And then we're also going to have Missy Gannon from the KCWO Open. She took things down, I believe, over in the FPO side of things. So I reached out to her.
Certainly did.
Again, as always, as I love to do, reach out to people at the last possible moment. As my schedule was a little bit crazier than normal this week. And Missy obliged. So we're going to first start with Jackson Sullivan, or Jacko, as I learned to call him and love him when I met him in Australia a few months ago. I was very honored to get a rundown of how things operate over at RPM Disc. Well, not everything. I got to see the operation. Maybe that's a better way to put it. I saw the operation over at RPM Disc out of New Zealand, out of Auckland, New Zealand. And it was a thought tonight. I was like, hey, it's been a few months. Let's catch up with those guys. I'd love to kind of spread the word and share what they've got going on.
They want to sponsor one of the best amateur masters in Wisconsin. I'm not even going to say the best.
I'll reach out to Kevin.
I'm going to say one of the best.
Your boy Kevin.
I bet you I'm top 3.
I'll reach out to your boy Kevin and see if I can get him a deal then.
I'm just kidding. I don't want any sponsorship, but I appreciate the offer that they didn't make.
Well, we will. So we're going to talk to Jacko. He's holding down the fort, I guess, over at RPM. I believe it's about 2 p.m. in the afternoon on Wednesday over there right now. So it should be fun to be able to catch up with him and see what they've got going on. Like I said, then we'll have a few other odds and ends. And then right around that time, I'm guessing we'll be able to catch up with Missy, our champion over at the KCWO Open. And you know that because you watched all the footage.
I watched all of the FPO footage from the KCWO Open this weekend.
Well, at least that was a quick watch.
I did it right before we went live.
Yeah. We're going to talk about that. That's kind of a little jab in the sense that today we saw Ultra World release an article. It had words. I give Ultra World a little shout out here. Around the time of the Portland Open Adam Hammis situation, they really just screenshot a bunch of things from Facebook, and I guess called that an article.
That is
of sorts. But there were almost literally 0 words that accompanied it.
Just a bunch of screenshots. That's fine though. That's modern.
So this one has words.
Journalism.
This one has words, and it had some screenshots, and it talks about something that's a little bit, I'll admit, a little near and dear to my heart in talking about FPO coverage. And Is the sport in general, is the sport doing enough for our FPO fields? And we've seen some, I feel like we've seen some great leaps and bounds forward, and I think we've seen some things that still could use some work, and I think that can be pointed out a lot of people, myself included. I'm a tournament director. I've run tournaments, and I'm sure I have either failed or let down some of our female contingency from time to time.
Very awkward, I feel, when media covers other media outlets. Like, it's very meta, and not that I'm above it, had Ultra World or any media or us or anything said or done something, you know, newsworthy, then it must be covered. But it's funny that they write an article and then we have to cover their article that was written. It's kind of, I don't know. It's always strange to me.
Well,
but it is a talking point, and if there's one thing we like to do, it's talk.
Well, and that is exactly what I was about to say, is that I started vlogging in 2010, and at that time, written blogs were very popular.
They were all the rage.
They were. And I thought, well, I was doing that 10 years ago, writing weekend write-ups and reviews from traveling around the country. But I'm not a good writer. I don't claim to be. I don't enjoy it. I pain myself just over the idea of putting together the write-ups for my YouTube videos, which I have been actually complimented on, so I'll take that, but because I put a little more effort into those. But I'm not a big fan of doing that. So when someone in another form of media, and we saw, Ultra World really get into the scene, and I think fill a void or fill a gap that otherwise we'd been missing out on. I know All Things Disc Golf came out really hot and heavy, and they were killing it. And then unfortunately, I think his life priorities just kind of took him elsewhere, because they were doing some really good stuff, but that momentum kind of ended. And outside of a few articles occasionally on the PDGA, which usually is only around tournament times, we don't see a whole lot of written material out there. So Ultra World has definitely stepped in and taken on that role, and they're usually not shy about taking a stance. And I've seen them be just dead wrong on things, and I've seen them hit the nail on the head. So it's a great conversation piece for sure. As what I think I love about more of those opportunities are that you can be, not everyone over there writing is hardcore disc golf 24/7.
Yeah, certainly.
You can be a little bit more fringe, which I think brings in fresh perspectives, and I think that's great for us to see as well. So anyway, we'll talk about that a little bit later. I think we're actually going to get ready here in just a few moments. I don't know if you had anything else. Happy Father's Day, belated.
All the fathers out there.
Do you say Happy Father's Day to all the baby daddies too? I mean, they're dads.
Yeah, I mean,
but it's not Dad's Day, it's Father's Day, and then that gets a little dicey.
You want to argue like a father is actually someone who is involved in the child's life, whether that be a stepfather or things like that, as opposed to someone who maybe is not. So I take that for what it's worth.
I think we should get into that topic.
Oh, that would be after show fodder. Father, not fodder.
There you go. All right. So yes, this last weekend, of course, Father's Day weekend, and a little bit, I don't know if slow is the right word. Of course, we had an A-tier out in...
Two of them.
Yeah, an A-tier taking place out in Montana, and the A-tier taking place in Kansas City. Was there another one?
Wait, isn't the Majestic? Is that an A-tier?
Oh, and the Majestic, just west of us by a few minutes. Yeah, thanks. Majestic taking place. So I don't know if slow is the right answer, but just a little more low-key.
It was low-key because, as we see on these weekends, usually right before huge events, some pros take the weekend off, but most of them will kind of scatter. Wasn't there the big doubles event out in
Whistler's Bend?
Whistler's Bend.
Sure.
So you saw a lot of pros just, at all these regional events. So you didn't have the field that we're used to seeing that gets everybody really excited. I mean, KC Wide Open, I hate to be that guy. But you might have just written the check out to Paul when he showed up. Sorry, but there wasn't a lot of current competition for him. And we saw that. Now, Minnesota Majestic was much different. I personally went on the record and said I thought Kale was going to take that one down.
Ooh.
And Kevin Jones showed up and shot an amazing round and took it down. I think it was only a 2-round event. There is, there's great golf to be seen. It's just a matter of it's in small pockets now. And next weekend, or this upcoming weekend, we're going to see everybody at Ledgestone, and I'm really excited about that. Ledgestone got a new sponsor,
and we're talking about
coverage sponsor.
We're talking about almost 1,000 total people between the amateur side and the pro tour side. So we're talking about obviously a very, very large scale event. All right, well, Johnny, why don't you ring up Jacko, and we'll see if we can get him here on the line as fresh new face that we've never had anyone from RPM. I know we've had a number of direct either players or representatives from various manufacturers, but with those guys being a little bit more secluded and remote, we don't necessarily catch up with them nearly as often. So as soon as he's ready, and it looks like he just about is, I think we also may be soon announcing our digital green room may or may not be presented by Disc Baron. He's reached out with some clever ideas there. So without further ado, all the way from New Zealand, we're going to welcome Jackson Sullivan. How are we doing today, buddy?
Good, man. Good. How you guys?
We're doing awesome. It's summer here. We're getting some really pretty comfortable weather lately, and ultimately we're in the swing of disc golf season, so can't be that bad.
Perfect.
Yeah, so, Jacko, you and I met officially. I think we've maybe crossed paths in other times at some other really big events throughout the last decade, somewhere or another, but we kind of officially met at the Australian Disc Golf Championships back in last November. An event you've won before, right?
Yeah, 2017 was my first international traveling event over to Australia, so it was good to go and rub shoulders with those guys.
Yeah, so just across that little pond area there, or channel. What do you guys call that distance? This is going to sound a little ignorant, but what do you? Clearly it's ocean, but what do you call that distance between New Zealand and Australia? Because it's not that far of a flight.
No, usually it's across the pond or hopping over the ditch.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. Well, so you're in Auckland, New Zealand, which was a place I got to visit immediately following the Australian Disc Golf Championships. Well, I was in Australia for, I don't know, almost 3 weeks, and then got to come visit you guys. Tell us a little bit about RPM Discs and what you guys have going on over there.
Well, man, we're super busy at the moment, which is great. So things are growing. We've been a company officially with the two with Simon Feasey and Keith Inwood since about 2010, I believe. It was previously a company from another guy, Nigel Barnwell, who originally started it, and Simon and Keith took over about 2010. Since then, we've got about 10 different molds out, ultimate and recreational discs as well. We do our own baskets also, the RPM Helix, which you've seen in person as well, which we're always tinkering with and making, coming up with new and better designs. And we just can't stop geeking out on anything disc golf, obviously, but you saw it firsthand how much how passionate we are about it. But we're currently about to add another mold to the lineup later towards the year, and then from there early next year, early 2020, we'll add another mold as well. So we then think we'll have a full lineup. We do everything from events to obviously manufacturing plastic and the works.
Well, so I want to start a little bit with when you guys came out with some of your very first discs. I think an easy tendency is to go to the fastest driver you can to get that out to market. I think we even joked about that last week as to what you'd come out with and what speed you'd give it, but that wasn't even really the first disc. Weren't more of a recreational, almost catch ultimate style discs were your first molds, weren't they?
It was, yeah. So that'd be the Ripper.
Okay.
It's a small sort of a smaller recreational style disc, and then we had our version of an ultimate, which we're about to tweak after when time allows in the near future, so we can get that a little bit better in the hands of ultimate players. And yeah, we didn't start with the big bad speed 13 and 14s as you mentioned. Yeah,
No.
start from the ground up and work our way there.
I think the best for me, if I were to start a disc golf company, I think a putter would always be the one, because it seems like everybody can throw a putter, as opposed to a mid or even a mid range or a high speed driver where you're really limiting your pool of players. So a putter or
Exactly.
that seems like for golf discs, that seems like the smart way to go about it.
It does, but I would challenge that and
No, you
say, what's probably the most difficult disc in your bag to replace? What's the one that you hold on to the longest? You probably grow some kind of affection to a putter, and then you get locked in on them.
I think people grow affection to a lot of things. I'm personally grown more attached to my mid-range discs as opposed to any other ones, but I'm sure everybody's a little different.
All right, so Jacko, when you guys are looking at expanding, I'm sure you guys are always watching what all the other companies are doing, and there's a lot of companies that are your size. There's obviously some that are a little bit bigger, and then there's a few that are way bigger. What are some of the things that you are always kind of keeping your eyes on? Is it plastic types? Is it actual molds and what they're doing, or is it your lineup? What are some of the things you're always thinking about when you see what other companies are doing?
I think just ultimately staying fresh, keeping that fresh perspective on the market and everything, and what we think people will like. As we discussed when you were down under, things have been done time and time again, and you do see the same old happening quite often. So for us, it's the perspective of staying fresh, bringing something new to the market that stands up to the bigger companies from our little down under company that we are at the moment. That's one thing that we're big on. As you would have seen, just from our stock standard stamps, they're pretty nice, if I do say so myself.
They're gorgeous. You guys have so many different. Obviously,
Thanks.
you guys go with all of the birds and they're gorgeous. Now, when someone's, whether it's New Zealand or Australia, I'll say, I think there's quite a bit of overlap on those two markets. But what are people used to? I mean, we take for granted. I could literally go to a website, order a disc, and maybe even have it at my house tomorrow. Clearly, things don't operate that way for you guys, whether it's coming from international or from even you guys over at RPM. What kind of explain the culture or the atmosphere when it comes to discs and ordering and just accessibility?
So we're about to look into the e-commerce side of things and take ourselves online. So you can purchase from us online sooner than later. We do everything because obviously freight's a big part of, like you say, getting our plastic into people's hands. So we've put together introduction packs where you can buy a 50 disc pack and have it in your door within 3 to 4 days for someone to check out our plastic range, every mold we have and each type of plastic we have. So that's something we've done strategically to try and make it more accessible for people. We've also got ambassadors and team players in the States now and Canada, of course. So with our team and our ambassadors growing, we're geographically really trying to tick the boxes to make it more accessible for people to experience our product, pretty much.
Yeah, and
so it's one thing at a time for us. It's good.
Well, and I was going to say, dare I ask? Of course, we're all egocentric on the U.S. here, but with where you guys are located, do you guys go after the U.S. market any more than the European market? Does one of them? I mean, I feel like there's still more players, quite a few more players in the U.S., but
or even the Asian market.
Yeah, is there any particular market that you guys are really set on going after, or are you just spreading as?
Yeah, I mean, obviously down under, everyone knows about us in Australia and New Zealand, but the US market for sure, and the North American, the Canadians, we've just recently had some announcement to come soon with some good stuff coming out of North America there. We haven't really gotten onto the European market yet because we need to be established more so in what we consider obviously the home of disc golf in the US of A. But we do baskets as well, and we've got 12 baskets in Norway. We've got 9 baskets on the Ali Disc Golf Centre in Sweden there on their warm-up course. So we just sent our first lot of 9 baskets to Portland for a private course. So we're slowly getting our way into there, not just the discs, but our RPM Helix baskets as well. So for us, definitely the US and Northern America for sure.
Yeah, and I know we don't have, unfortunately, I don't have one in front of us at the moment, but the Helix baskets, when people were watching the Australian Disc Golf Championships, those are just some of the most, they're so gorgeous. They look like a work of art as much as they are functional. And, you know, I know, like you guys said, a lot of work has gone into them, and you're continuing to tweak them as you go, but they're just absolutely gorgeous. And
thanks.
Do you feel like just the sheer cost of shipping them and the weight that they are, is that going to be your number one challenge to getting them stateside and all across the world?
Yeah, it always will be, but we're continually looking at ways to drop the cost on that and to make it more accessible for everyone to get in the ground on their courses. Whether that, at the moment we have one long solid heavy pole, which is great for how strong and sturdy it can be, but when it comes to shipping and freight, we can't quite pack that into a box. So we're looking at ways to break it down and get them more accessible and drop that freight cost. But we're lucky, whereas Keith, who you met, his background is in freight, so we're lucky to have a lot of knowledge from him.
Yeah, for sure. And then if when you guys are trying to get discs out the door, is it commonly, I mean, of course, again, when they're a little bit more local to you in New Zealand or Australia, but if you're trying to ship something to the U.S., is it makes so much more sense for somebody to say, hey, I need to buy 10 or 15 or 20 of these, and that's going to make the freight that much more of a better idea? Or is there a sweet spot? Is there a magic number of discs when they get shipped? Yeah,
I mean, a larger pallet, which would be great, was round about, anywhere between 1,000 to 2,000 discs is that would obviously drop the price hugely. Okay. But it doesn't work, as we know, it doesn't work that way. Not straight off the bat anyway. But for us, we do want to think big. There's no reason not to, and we do believe we've got the product to back up the passion we have for it. But yeah, freight's definitely a factor that comes to mind for a lot of people.
Yeah.
So
yeah. Well, I think it's
sweet spot of baskets of about 9 to 18. A half course or a full course, which is a lot cheaper than 1 to 2 baskets for sure.
Well, and I keep thinking about, our retailers over here that are carrying RPM right now, hopefully they're making the large orders to, keep their costs down as much as possible. And then, so that makes you guys just as competitive with everyone else. And when you're looking at your plastics and the various grades you guys have, you guys are within $1 or so, a US dollar at least, a dollar or so of what we see for all of our other, kind of, regular plastic types. Does that sound right? You guys are kind of in line?
Pardon? Come again?
You guys are in line price wise, within $1 or so, right?
For sure.
Okay. Now, go ahead.
No, sorry, man.
I was just going to ask, I don't know if that's maybe him or not, but one of the main guys driving the bus over there is Simon. He was a gracious host, put me up for a couple days when I came and visited you guys. He's got a long-standing history in playing a lot of disc golf, really all over the world as well. How did it come about that not only does he, take on this company, but then you get involved? And I mean, you kind of have what a lot of people would say is a dream job right now.
I don't disagree at all. Yeah. So I knew him personally through competing and making my way up the ranks, and he's been the king of disc golf in New Zealand for a long time, and So we had that competitive friendship as well, where we in the later 4 or 5 years we've been pushing each other, which has really benefits us both greatly, you know. But yeah, one day he speak of the devil. one day he said to me, "Hey, would you like to move up to Auckland and take on the operations manager position?" Of course I did. Straight into it.
Awesome. Well, it looks like kind of coming into frame. If we could scoot him over just a little. Looks like we've got Simon. Hey, Simon, Terry, and Johnny here. How you doing?
Good, thanks. Yeah.
Good. We were. I was trying to get all the lowdown, the dirty details from your employee with this pop-up interview here. We didn't even let you know about it ahead of time, but glad you're here, man. How are things going?
Things are fantastic, Terry. Really good. We've got a lot of. Yeah, I mean, it's just fun. I love being involved in something that, you know, you're always happy to turn up to work because, you know, it's fun. So.
Well, I see that you guys are having events all the time, and now that like actually after being in New Zealand, I'm actually a little bit familiar with either the city or some of the courses that you guys are playing now. One question I didn't get to with even Jacko is like, how often, if somebody was going to New Zealand for, we'll say, a 3-month period, would they have a tournament every other weekend that they could find, or every weekend, or once a month? How often do they get to go out and could they go out and find a tournament if they were traveling in that area?
Well, there's the national tour, which typically has around 20 odd events a year. So, you know, a lot of those are in the summer months, and through the winter they're a little bit more scarce, you know, maybe once a month, something like that. But then within the regions there's also local stuff that happens as well, so, you know, they're smaller one-day events, stuff like that. And so you know, good chance of getting something. And I mean, of course, if you're really nice to the right people, they'll put an event on for you.
Oh geez.
Well, I know the property that we were at, where you graciously hosted me, has its own course. And how often are you guys hosting events there? I know the team event goes on there about once a year, right? Do you have a few others or no?
A few others. You know, it's actually a retreat centre as well, so I tend to do quite a bit of corporate disc golf, like Ambrose events and things for people who just book the actual accommodation and retreat centre. So that happens pretty commonly. And then, you know, it's a really nice place, so it's quite often booked, and we can't have our disc golf events there.
Yeah, if you guys weren't so busy, you know, running another successful operation, you guys could have more disc golf all to yourself. Jeez, you just need to buy more land.
Well, I actually done that, Terry. I've got 100 acres down in the Coromandel that we're putting a course on at the moment.
Okay. And is that a newer development?
Yeah, relatively new. It's done at a very popular tourist resort called Hot Water Beach, where you can literally dig a hole in the sand on the beach and hot water comes up through it. So it's a pretty nice place. And yeah, we've got a coastal sort of course mapped out there that we're slowly building on. We've had the land for just over 3 years. Okay,
well, so when I was traveling from Australia over to New Zealand, everybody said, "Oh, are you going to the South Side or the South Island?" You know, that it was incredible how that was the very first thing that was said. And I said, "No, I think if my geography is right, I'm gonna go to the North Side, which is in Auckland." What is that the disc golf culture like there for you guys? I mean, does everybody know everybody? Are you guys always seeing the same people week in and week out?
Yeah, it's probably fair to say that we are. You know, I mean, it is pretty divided in the North and South Island. As you know, that's an airfare. So in terms of, I guess it's only really the sort of maybe a handful of people who have travelled between the islands, and then there's, apart from the bigger events like nationals and stuff like that, where you get a better sort of cross-pollination of North and South Island.
Now, where are you guys going to be traveling to? I know you guys were at Worlds last year, and you're, you know, both playing and promoting RPM. Where are you guys going to be traveling to? Where are we going to see you yet this year?
You'll catch us at Pro Worlds again
Awesome.
for sure, and then we have the Flying Kiwis representing over in Estonia at the Team World Champs. So we've got a busy, fun-filled August ahead of us. So we'll compete and promote at the Pro Worlds, and then head our way over to Estonia and represent the country best we can.
Very nice. Simon, now you are, give us a little bit of your history of golf. We talked about it a little bit with Jacko, but what's your history in the sport, and how did you come about with actually, then owning a disc golf company?
Okay. Well, it really goes right back to when I was a kid, and I'll never forget. And in fact, the person who I went into partnership with, Nigel Barnwell, who's like a legend of disc golf in New Zealand, he had a company called the Waiheke Disc Company, and he made discs, and I'll never forget them because that was my first pack of discs that I bought from a sports store when I was a kid, and it had these professional series of, they're essentially kind of flyer type discs, but they were different sizes, and I was absolutely intrigued, and I threw those around for a long time. But it wasn't until like in my late 20s, early 30s that I started to play ultimate disc, frisbee with some friends, and then sort of around when I was like, well, when was it? 1999. I first got introduced to disc golf, and I thought, wow, this sounds intriguing, and I was instantly hooked. I think I had a Stingray given to me, and I started chucking that around. I could throw an ultimate disc a long way, so as soon as you put a golf disc in your hand, all of a sudden it's going for miles, and you're hooked. So that was, I guess, when I got introduced to it, and I met Bob Gentle, who's also a legend of disc golf and a Hall of Famer, and he and I and another friend and one of his mates, we used to play in One Tree Hill, and he sort of got me involved in, I guess, the organisation as a New Zealand disc golf, and then we sort of put a campaign together to compete in the World Games, which was in Akita in Japan in 2001, and World Champs and stuff like that. Then, at that stage I was on the New Zealand Disc Golf Board, and I met Nigel a few years later, and whose business was failing a bit at the time, and I said, look, I'd like to help out, so I came on board to help him out, and over a period of time he eventually retired, and we took it over and formed the brand RPM Discs, and Keith Inwood, who's my business partner, he joined us, and then of course you've heard from Jacko, so that's when he came on board.
Yeah,
a couple of years ago. So
and RPM, for those who don't know, how did you come up with the name? What does it mean? All that.
Well, it means revolutions per minute. It's the reason we like that is because obviously that's a measure of spin, and we saw spin as being a good thing to associate with discs. And we also liked it because it's got such an international feel to it. Everyone can associate with RPM. That's your tachometer on your vehicle, stuff like that. And it's an easy one to remember. And it works nicely with the koru, which is our sort of a tribal shape that we have as the icon, if you like, of the logo.
All right, makes perfect sense. Now, when we were talking to Jacko about possibly a new mold this year, maybe a new mold next year. What are some of the things that, because you're the primary designer, is that a good way to put it, when it comes to actually designing the shape and the mold of the disc?
Yep, yeah, with the team.
Okay.
Naturally we all talk about the discs that we love and that we know, and we throw those, and then we look at those and we sort of assess them, and we've got a good understanding now of different elements of the profile and how it affects stability. So we've got a good understanding of the aerodynamics and a very good understanding of the molding and the complications around molding. So we sort of, it's a team effort, really.
Oh, okay. And then I was going to say that it's interesting to me how many of and I think back to everyone here stateside, Steve Rico does not have a degree in aerodynamics or thermotechnologies or anything like that, and I don't think any of our main designers do. So that was my next question: is that just all trial and error? Is that because you know the sport and then you can apply it? What, how does that knowledge? How do you even gain that knowledge?
Well, I mean, naturally, there's a lot that's gained, as a player. You look at the profile, how the disc performs in different winds, so you start to understand a lot just from purely throwing the discs. And then I've always been, I've always been interested in the engineering, and I've got a background and a degree in mechanical engineering, so I was fascinated as to what are the mechanics that are going on there, and how is the spin and the profile and all those different facets of it, how do they affect the flight? And in fact, I think do you remember the disc wing, the quarter K?
Yeah,
disc wing.
I have a whole box of them.
I've got a few of them.
Yes.
Yeah, fantastic disc. Hard to hold because obviously sometimes where function and form don't quite meet perfectly, it goes a hell of a long way. But having that, not having that edge for the drag to put your fingers under made it very hard to hold on to. But that's I forget the guy's name who designed that, but he studied it and basically did a degree and a thesis on the aerodynamics of a disc. And that wasn't too far different to what's being made. So there you go. I guess that people are on the right track.
Yeah, which I always found really interesting because when I remember the marketing for that disc, that was Disc Wing, if I recall, was the name of the company. And I just thought, like, okay, so this guy knows what he's talking about. He, like you said, having all of that background in engineering, and it didn't feel like it was revolutionary. I mean, it was cool, and it had that rounded lip on the bottom, and unfortunately, I think if they hit like one tree, they were done.
Yeah. There was an issue with it. Yeah.
But
because they had the quarter K and the quarter K2.
Yeah. So, but ultimately, that was pretty much the end of. That was the beginning of the end. We never really saw anything else from them, right? They had some great shirts.
John Potts or something like that?
I'm not too sure.
Jonathan Potts? I'm trying to remember his name.
I've thrown one.
Yeah. So, well, it's having that background and then, being a successful businessman and entrepreneur all plays into, and I kind of liken it to, what we see with Steve and Bomberico, who I know you've had lots of conversations with. Yeah,
absolutely.
Their background, their day in and day out hustle has been concrete in that industry, but their love for Frisbee, transcended into, starting up a company. Do you guys go ahead?
No, I was just going to say, I don't think you can underestimate as well being a player, and sort of, I guess when you strive to be as good as you can be, every single detail makes a difference. So you really need to understand your plastic. You need to understand your profiles, your mechanics of your form, and all of that helps when it comes to actually designing discs, and helps with knowing what you don't want. Like inconsistencies or understanding how to change that. So that was a huge part of it, and also having that passion means you don't get as easily bored, and you're much fussier, I guess.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah, like Jacko, I spend 5 minutes sometimes trying to figure out why he's called a disc a second.
Okay. So that means the quality control measures over there are top notch, and I think everyone can appreciate that.
Yeah, for sure.
For sure.
Now, when speaking of your location and production, some of the stories I've heard, and this is big and small, is you're getting plastics and polymers and pellets and all these different things that may come from different providers. Are you guys at an additional disadvantage with your location? I mean, I think about, if I were molding discs here in Milwaukee, I could probably call 100 places and have my ingredients all here tomorrow. You guys maybe are a little bit more limited. Is that true?
Yeah, that's fair. It's fair to say. We're fortunate that we've sort of buddied up with a big plastics injection molding facility. So they look after all our dies for us, and they provide the machines. So they've got the really top-notch injection molding machines, and also they have bulk buying power. So with some of their big customers and stuff like that. So we get a pretty good deal on the commodity, the plastic itself, and we sort of we're gradually getting to that stage now where we're buying enough material ourselves to make sure that we can, keep some sort of consistency in the batches.
All right. Well, it wouldn't be a Smashbox interview unless you guys gave us some like down and dirty secret exclusive insider tip or inside note that no one else knows about yet. You guys got anything you can share with us here that all of our Smashies love to hear?
However, there's so much. I'm trying to think of what to let you have.
Yeah.
New plastics, new molds,
it's all kind of $100 an hour.
Nice.
I will tell you. I will put you into one little insight. In New Zealand, we have a very strong science sort of innovation background, and one of the companies that I've been involved in through another business are very big in biopolymers. So we're keen on working with some tree-based polymers that have similar properties to TPU, so that we can actually, do something that's, when it gets lost, it's not more plastic into the environment. So we're really keen on that. That's one of our drivers. We have experimented with some of these biopolymers already, and it's not quite right, but I guess that's something that, stay tuned, because that's what we're I don't want something that doesn't look and feel like a good disc. I want something that you pick up and say, wow, this is a great disc.
I think
and
that's
great for the environment.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that's a really great way to go about the future in general. We've seen some people do recycled plastic in the past, but to actually have like a biodegradable plastic that lasts, at least X amount of years, I think that would be a huge win for disc golf in general.
And the manufacturers who then need to sell you another disc. We're on to you guys. All right. Well, we're going to let you go, but I wanted to say thank you to both of you. As Jacko can probably tell you, like I literally reached out no more than an hour ago and said, he sent me a nice message. I replied with something, and then I was like, oh, hey, let's have you on the show. And he was very, very accommodating. So I just want to say thank you guys for that. We definitely have to have you back. We can catch up and talk maybe more about, some specific releases and other things you guys are working on. But just to be so accommodating, and the fact that it works out that it's in the afternoon for you guys and not late night like it is for us. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys. So I'll see you guys at the Worlds. Is that the next place?
Yeah, Pro Worlds.
For sure.
Okay. All right. Well, I don't know if
Thanks for reaching out to us as well, mate. We really appreciate it.
Of course.
Thanks, guys.
My pleasure. And I know we kind of danced around it, but I do sell some plastic here and there. So if you guys want to set me up with an account, I would love to order. I want to make an order so that if people do come to me, I'd have some RPM discs available for them to get from me stateside. So we'll clearly talk offline, or I could give you my credit card now. It's
right now. Let's hear the credit card numbers.
No, but seriously, guys.
Ready.
Well, we appreciate it. Looking forward to it. We want to spread some RPM love around and keep working hard, because I know you guys are doing just that, and I love and appreciate all of it.
Thanks very much.
Terry. Likewise.
All right. Take care. Have a good night,
Thanks, guys.
See ya.
Ciao.
All right. That was Simon Feasy along with Jacko, Jackson Sullivan from RPM Discs. I think back to when I arrived in early December. I had spent 2.5, 3 weeks or so in Australia. I saw both of them there, and then in Australia. And then when it was time to go over to New Zealand, I landed, I got picked up, and then they immediately brought me right to a restaurant bar where they were having their Christmas party. And I got to sit in on the little
nice
company Christmas party. It was quaint. It was, of course, those three, along with a few significant others and such, but just a great group of guys that works really hard. I love seeing their operation, what they're doing in this little tiny spot in the world over in New Zealand.
And the funny thing is, I think of people that have seen a lot of different manufacturing things, and I think of you because you've been in and around everyone from Discraft, Innova, Legacy, RPM. You've been
DGA,
and seen
yep.
DGA a lot of facilities. So I was going to ask, did you take anything special away from theirs as opposed to some of the other ones? Or?
I'll admit, I feel like it's where everybody starts. It's exactly that, or maybe that second step. I remember being at Legacy specifically. I think they originally even started in maybe Bamba's garage, so I wasn't quite there for that. But by the time they had their first warehouse facility and I visited that, I got a very similar vibe and feel when I was with these guys. They have, obviously all their inventory stocked up and ready to go for shipping out, but then they have baskets in there, and they have little office space, and it's naturally just where they get all their work done. But to see like the beginnings, it's awesome to see. And then, like you said, I've been blessed to be inside of a Discraft's warehouse, which is a little bit larger. And
I can imagine.
And East
Probably
Coast
even larger today than it was when you went.
Yeah, East Coast and West Coast over at Innova. Yeah, everybody just finding their way in their own space, and it's just a testament to where you begin and putting in that hard work. It's pretty awesome. So again, thank you to those guys for the last moment connection, and it's certainly well overdue after I got to spend so much great time with them a few months ago.
You said Missy was going to join us around 10?
I believe I'm going to reach
10?
back out
Okay.
to her. Yeah, we got 9:50 our time.
All right, so let's do a little bit of talking about some events that we had this past weekend.
All righty.
We'll get into some results here. We don't have Dynamite this weekend, or this weekday, sorry. He's busy taking care of some family stuff. I think Ashley is busy tonight, so he was not able to join us. But let's get right into the KC Wide Open presented by Discraft. It's 74 open men players. We saw Paul Macbeth, I believe it's how it's pronounced. Paul Macbeth take down the open field. He shot a 32 under par. He bested the field by 8 strokes over Cameron Messerschmidt. Paul went 1082, 1064, and then slacking off a little bit with a 1038.
Boo.
Still the best round of the division.
Oh, was it the final round?
The 1038, yes. So Paul wins $1,264, getting himself all warmed up for this week's Ledgestone. Second place, like I said, Cameron Messerschmidt. Third place, Chris Clemens. Fourth place, Nathan Queen. And fifth place, Andrew Presnell. So congratulations to all of them. You can find that post-production coverage out on Jomez if you're interested in seeing some amazing shots. In the open women's field, we have winning the field by 3 strokes. Spoiler. We can wait for the post-production, but I'm going to tell you now. Missy Gannon shoots 14 over par, shooting 952, 942, and then an 891 rated round to take home $658. Followed up by Hannah Macbeth, who shot 17 over, so 3 strokes, and then Lauren Butler. So congratulations to the women in a field of 7. That is the top 3. Let's move a little bit closer to our home here in Wisconsin, but we're going to move just west of us over to Minnesota. We have the Minnesota Majestic. Which event has been going on longer? Wide Open or Majestic?
The Wide Open.
Correct. I don't know the right.
Well, and I only say that because I did put up a post this weekend. I have an old beat up X clone that was, I think it said on there, I couldn't even read it. It said the 4th Minnesota Majestic, 4th annual, and that was when I went and played it in 1997. So I'm a little bit older.
So that had been 93
and
ish.
KC Wide Open. I feel like
In
the 30th was roughly, it was in the Disc Golf Planet days,
so roughly
which was
8
roughly
years ago.
8 years ago. So that has to put it in, somewhere in that neighborhood of being 40-ish years.
Awesome. I did know that it was the KC Wide Open. I wasn't exactly sure how much it was by, but anyway,
I've
let's
got great memories at both. Way back in those days.
Certainly. The Majestic. Kevin Jones cleans house by 5 strokes over Cale LaVisca, Matt Bell, Terry Roethlisberger, and Greg, our world champion, Barsby. Kevin Jones takes home $2,000. This was only a 2-round event, so Kevin Jones shot a 1072 and a 1039. There was 96 open players.
Wow.
There were 3 open women players.
What?
Only 3. Rebecca Cox wins this one, taking home $450, shooting 11 over par, shooting a 970 and a 915 rated round over Casey Pennington, who shot a 22 over par. So congratulations to all the winners there. I just want to mention, because I just saw it now in the Pro Masters field. We're all getting old. Danny Polk wins, shoots a 14 under par, 6 strokes better than Chris Robertson. I only joke because Danny Polk is our age, and we played with him quite a bit growing up. And
yeah,
now
that's how that works.
And he's very, very good, and we're all getting old. Let's move further out west over to Missoula, Montana. We're going to talk about the Zootown Open presented by Inc. Realty Group, driven by Innova. An Innova player won this event. Kelvin Heimberg shooting a 35 under par. His ratings were 1034, 1063, 1079. So just getting better and better as the weekend rolled on. $1,200, beating James Conrad by 7 strokes. Then third place, Brian Earhart, tied for 4th, Jordan Castro and Colton Montgomery. So congratulations, guys. The Open Women's Field, 13 players. That's a little bit more like it. Sarah Hokum wins this one. Looks like in a 3-way playoff. They all shot +3. So Sarah Hokum shot 953, 943, 965. Those are some really solid rounds over Paige Bierkes and Madison Walker. That would have been fun to see.
Wow. Yeah, I was just going to say, I apologize.
I hope somebody recorded at least the playoff.
I was going to say, I
awesome.
did not know that it went down like that, so that's definitely...
Didn't either. So Sarah Hokum wins $750. Paige Bierkes and Madison Walker tie, technically, for second place and take $445. So congratulations again to all of those winners as well.
Don Smith, I know, I did see him post saying he got an A-tier win. He takes down Masters. As you mentioned, Danny Polk took down Masters in Minnesota, and we won't mention that Dixon Jowers feller taking runner-up to George Smith in the KC.
He said it was a disappointing final round is what he had.
Well, yeah, he lost his lead.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to say try not to suck, but I mean, don't give away your lead would be the polite way to say it.
Always the bridesmaid.
Well, congrats to them all. And I see Nova is out on the board. She wants her 5th place shout out. So you're getting it, Nova.
Congratulations, Nova. I did.
You're part of that podcast family, so we get to give you a shout out.
You are.
Even if it's 5th.
My son got a chuckle out of the U-Disc, I believe is what it was, because it said Nova 6'4" Paulette, and we were looking at the results, and he goes 6'4". I'm like, yeah, that's how tall she is.
Yeah.
She claims herself as the tallest female disc golfer, and obviously being my family, we're all giants, so he got quite a chuckle out of that, and he laughed. He enjoyed that.
All right. Well, without further ado, we've got a little more KC Wide Open action coming at us. She's in the Disc Baron Digital Green Room. Missy Gannon. How we doing tonight, Missy?
Hi, good. How are you?
Good,
Let me
good.
update that name.
Yeah, you're not going to be Jackson right now. We do. I'll say it again as I always do, almost every show. Thank you. I know I had reached out to you tonight and thought it would be great to have you join us, but I didn't give you a lot of
time.
not a lot of lead time on that. So thank you. We appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Of course. So we were talking about not all of our professionals. I was going to say not only our FPO division, but all pros were kind of spread out this weekend. I know I saw you just a few weeks ago at Beaver State, and you were rushing off to get over to Kansas City. What made up your mind to go to one section of the country versus another?
I don't really know. I mean, initially I was thinking about playing the Twin Falls Classic because I think maybe Zootown was full. I don't really remember. But then I just thought, like, I kind of want to just get the trip over with now rather than later, I guess, because I wanted to be in the area. Ledgestone's a big one. And, I just wanted to make sure I had enough time to, practice for KC, but then also only be like 6 hours away for Ledgestone, which, I'm hoping to play well. So, just a last minute decision, really, but I'm glad that I did.
Yeah, you should be. And I think that's KC Wide Open's new tagline for their event every year is, just when you want to get the drive out of the way, come to the KC Wide Open.
For sure.
In all seriousness, again, this dates us a little bit. I played in the KC Wide Open, I want to say in like 90, 98, 99. I think I was still even playing advanced back then. And what an amazing just disc golf community that it is. So many great courses, so many great people. What's been your have you been there before? What's your experience been like there?
I had never been to the KC Wide Open. I actually had never played either of the courses. We played Waterworks, and then we played Wyandotte, I think it's what it's called. And yeah, I had never played either courses. I'd been in the Kansas City area, but not really for disc golf. So yeah, I mean, it seemed like such a great community. You can tell when there was a local teeing off, everyone was going wild, and it was super cool. And I'd love to go back in the future.
So the fact that you went there and this was your first visit there, you literally were coming from across the country. How did you feel about multiple courses, and was it the same for MPO, or did they?
Yeah, the MPO played the same 2 courses, I believe.
So how do you feel? Maybe we'll keep it a generic question then. How do you feel about multiple courses over the time of an event weekend?
I don't know that I have a preference. I think that maximum would be 2. I know that there's been cases where we've played like 3 courses, and that's when it starts to get a little bit more difficult to practice for. And but honestly, I don't know that I really feel strongly either way. It obviously is really nice to only have to practice 1 course. You can play it multiple times, and fix some things or figure out things a little easier. But as far as this weekend, I think also for like an A tier, I didn't really mind, having to practice 2 courses. Waterworks is super fun, and there was only 1 round there. And so I just sort of quickly got in 1 practice round at each course the day before it started, I think. But yeah, I don't know. I don't know that I feel strongly either way, but it definitely is easier to practice when we only have like 1 course, to practice for.
Now, and to be fair, you're on the younger generation side of the disc golf career, maybe.
I used to get excited because we'd go to the KC Wide Open, and I thought, we're going to play like 4 courses. This is great.
And then as years wear on, and maybe you travel that much more, I know you've been on the tour full time, it'll be interesting. We check in 10 or 15 or 20 years as to what your mentality, if it'll change at that point, or maybe you've played every good course and you're not so concerned, or will you say, let's keep it to this 1 course thing. And so I know exactly how you feel. So, talk a little bit about the competition. What did we see? 7 or 9 women?
I think there were 7.
7. There were only 3 in Minnesota at that A tier, and then out in Montana, I think we saw almost 10 women or so. 7 women in the field. You knew everybody there, right? That's pretty standard.
Yeah, I've either played with everybody or at least I've met them before.
Okay. What was the format for you guys? Maybe you could break that down, because I really don't know. Where did you play, and was it morning or afternoons?
Sure. Yeah, it was about mid-morning. I think our tee times were right around 10 o'clock each day. And we played Waterworks the first day on Friday, and then Wyandotte both Saturday and Sunday, 1 round each day.
Okay. Now, Kansas City has hosted numerous Worlds there. I've been there for a few of them, as has Johnny. They really know how to put on a really big event and treat everyone to having a lot of fun. Even off the course. Were there some extracurriculars going on out there as well? And did you participate?
Yeah. I wanted to participate. I was quite tired after the first day, which I think was Friday. There was sort of like a fly mart that happened sort of in southern Kansas City at a brewery, I think. And I was gonna go, and then I was just super tired, and I wanted to make sure I was all set to go for Saturday. So yeah, I was a little bit of an old fart that night, but but yeah, I think then there was a player party on Thursday night. Again, I didn't end up going because I had just practiced both courses that day, and I was still trying to figure out exactly what I wanted to do for my round the next day. So I didn't partake in much of the activities, but I know that there was definitely a lot going on outside of disc golf.
Well, clearly, wherever you were focusing your efforts, they paid off. Tell me a little bit some of your successes on the weekend. You feel like you were driving well? Were you putting well? stress-free? Give us some of the details.
Sure. Yeah. So, the first round at Waterworks, there were 2 cards because there were 7 of us. So there was a card of 3 and a card of 4. I didn't play with Hannah or Lauren the first round specifically. And I only say that because, after the round, Hannah and I were both tied for the lead. And so, I didn't really know. There was UDisc going on. So I had an idea, but I haven't really worked in how to look at UDisc while I'm playing. I'm trying, especially first round, I try to keep that stuff out of my mind. So yeah, it was just super cool to, get off the field and, see that me and Hannah were both tied for the lead. And yeah, it was really awesome. And then we went to Wyandotte the next day, and I loved Waterworks for what it was. It's so hilly, and I don't think people actually, if you've never been there, and even if you watch the footage, I don't know that you can fully understand all of the elevation changes that happen at that course. So a lot goes into your shots, specifically your up shots, I feel like. So I was really focused on my up shots or my putting, and I just feel like my putting is always sort of my strongest suit. And yeah, it's one of those courses that you really have to be sort of conservative, and also know what the danger is at that course. And then Wyandotte is a really fun, a little bit more wide open of a park course. That you kind of have to be a little bit more conscious of your drives. And so once again, my putting still felt the strongest, but it was kind of fun to let loose on some big drives at Wyandotte. And, I felt pretty good, especially the first and the second round. My third round was a little bit rough, but luckily I kind of built myself a couple of strokes in the second round, and I was able to hold on. But yeah.
I think we heard about that. We kind of joked about that on the MPO side. Paul apparently built up a little lead and then slacked off during that final round. I mean, if that's the way you got to do it. I was thinking back as you were talking about hills at Waterworks, and the last time I was there was covering the Pro Masters Worlds last July or August. Is hole 5, and maybe you don't even remember, I think hole 5 might literally be the only flat hole on that course. That's completely flat from tee to pin.
Yeah.
Hole 5, I think, is maybe the only one. Yeah, 4 has the up on the hillside with the big peace sign by the train station.
Yes.
And then 5 is the one after it.
Yes.
I don't think there's a hole that is any other hole that's perfectly flat outside of hole 5.
Has that course changed much in the last 20 years?
No.
Okay. Well, good. I mean, that's
very, very, very little. Yeah, everything looks and plays pretty similar for the most part. Yeah. Which is a testament to how good it is.
Yeah. And I agree. Yeah, I think 5 is the only flat hole that I remember. So honestly, yeah, that's absolutely right. Though there's elevation on almost every single hole, whether it be downhill, which is typically like severely downhill, or severely uphill at some point in the hole. Yep. So it's a cool course. It's definitely something I wasn't expecting. I had heard about it, but you don't fully understand it until you're there playing it.
So let's move now. We're just a couple days away from moving into one of the, I will say it's got to be the largest field. I think there's like 46 women signed up right now or something like that. One of the largest fields, one of the biggest payouts, just one of the biggest events in the country of the year. What do you take from the last few days, and then how do you apply it moving into this weekend?
Honestly, for me, it's kind of it's not even just what happened this weekend. I feel like I've had a lot of really great smaller event finishes, I guess you would say. I played at La Nina, which I eventually took second to Sarah Hokum, but I definitely saw some things in my game there that not surprised me, but it was something that inspired me to know that I can do this, and I can play at a really high level. And unfortunately, I haven't really been able to transfer that as of late to some of the bigger events, but I think I'm just trying to harness all of those things that have happened in the last few months and try to just figure out a way to put them all together and do it on one of the bigger stages. And I feel really confident about Ledgestone. I had done really well here last year, being sort of new to the touring scene, and that was my first top 10 finish in a Disc Golf Pro Tour event. So I'm looking to improve upon that, and that's a top 10 again would be great, but I'm looking for that top 5 spot, and I don't think that it's out of the realm of possibility for me. So I just really need to figure out how to harness a lot of the things that have happened in a positive way, and just apply them all, and hopefully it goes my way. But I feel really good about Sunset Hills. We play Sunset Hills, the golf course, every round. So I think it's only 3 rounds this year. And I feel really good about that course. It's actually one of the courses that I scored the best at last year. So I don't think that there were any major changes, if at all any. So I'm looking forward to this year, and I'm hoping to get that top 5.
Well, I'm going to throw in a couple of details. For starters, yes, it's 45 women, which is just incredible.
That's great.
And the fact that you're playing 3 rounds all at Sunset, so you're not, going to have any time over at Northwood or any of the other courses, so you'll be dedicated there. And the fact that it's, like we just said, it's 3 rounds, so that's kind of a new change this year. We've seen it be 4 rounds typically in the past. This is also going to be a great, insight, or a little bit of a precursor to the Worlds, which will, utilize the course in a few months as well. So all of those things are great. And then an official plug on my part, the Ledgestone skins that Dana had just talked about last week that we did, that is raised money for St. Jude, that's also now available. So some people can go out, and if you want a little refresher on at least 9 of the holes in a really fun format, those are all out there as well, and that just got released a little bit earlier. So now 3 rounds at that course. Is there anything... I always ask, what are your feelings on golf courses in general? Like when you go sign up for a tournament and you see, okay, this is not at a park, this is not a private property, this is, a golf club or a country club or whatever it might be called, and we play on a number of them. What's your initial reaction to that? Anything?
I think that if you had asked me this early last year, I might have a different answer. I really do love park courses and wooded courses. They're more difficult. I think that they take a little bit more finesse. I wouldn't say more skill, but a little bit more finesse. And I think that it really highlights a lot of different parts of your game. But I have really kind of grown to like golf courses. I still wouldn't say that they're my favorite, but I do think that there are still a lot of things that you have to manage out on a golf course. You're going to get some skips, you're going to get some wind. So I don't know. Again, maybe I'm a little biased because I did play well there last year, but I do think that as long as it's utilizing the course in a way that still makes it super challenging, and doesn't limit us in any way. I don't know that I mind really playing golf courses anymore. I think especially Sunset, it doesn't necessarily benefit any one particular skill. I mean, still having a lot of distance is a good thing out there, but that course isn't super long. Not all of the holes, require a lot of distance. So I think that it's fair for the field. And I don't know. I don't know that I have a really hard set opinion, but really I'm just trying to play well, and whatever the tournament gives me, I'm going to take it and try to figure it out the best that I can, and hopefully score the best that I can out there as well.
Yeah, I was going to say Sunset, actually, from what I recall, is pretty balanced as far as distance and accuracy. Distance, as any course, for the most part, will help you out, but you need to make sure there's a few times you need to shape some shots out there for sure.
Yeah. No, we're looking forward to it. And you just said a moment ago what courses either provide or give you or will, put in front of you. That's going to actually kind of piggyback. I don't know if you saw the article, and we kind of prefaced it earlier in the show, talking about, the FPO field. And I'll ask you, as someone who just competed in an A tier this weekend, what are some of the things that, and this is, of course, no slight to anyone at the KC Wide Open or any event in particular, but what are some of the things for you that you would love to still see improved? What jumps out at you? And again, this doesn't have to be at all particular to KC, just in general. What would you like to see as we focus more on the FPO division?
Yeah, I mean, I think that I did see the article, and so I do know what you're talking about. And I also just know that, what the word on the street is, or what conversations that I've had with other FPO people or other, anybody really. I think that more coverage is always great. And I mean, we're trying to showcase our skills and as women. And actually, I just spoke to a few men in particular who are fans, and they say, they feel like they can relate more to the women's game because, it's not these, the MPO field, they're throwing shots that aren't impossible, obviously, but they're not as relatable to the masses. So that's really cool to hear, and I wish that there was more. I always wish that there was more coverage of the women. I obviously know some of the limitations, and I know that will hopefully come in time. But it's cool to hear that stuff from some of the fans or some of the people out there, and one day hopefully we'll be able to give that to them on a larger scale. But and then I think there's a little bit of the talk about the equality of the MPO and FPO fields, and on a bunch of different things. And generally speaking, I agree with most of what was said in the article, I guess. I don't know.
Okay. Other than media, what's most important to you in the FPO field? What would you particularly like to see improved, whether it's on the course, off the course, after, before events, specifically for FPO?
I really like when just like little things like and it's been said before, but like bathrooms or more bathrooms, or I really like the touch of like the women's tent, and sometimes I don't see it used as often as I would expect, but it's just those little things that are kind of a nice touch to sort of cater to what we need as women on the course. But I think that on a bigger scale, just what seems like little things like bathrooms and stuff like that are really nice and somewhat overlooked. Or when we do tee off early, maybe things look like they're still being set up and we're already teeing off. And, if it was just like premiere for us at 7 o'clock in the morning, and then also, at 3 o'clock in the afternoon or whatever. So, just a little bit of those things, just to feel like regardless of what time we're teeing off, that we're sort of being held at the same level as the MPO field. I don't know.
No, I'm going to say, you say little things, or that it's been said before in bathrooms. I can't stress that enough.
I don't think those are little things.
Yeah, I don't think that's a little thing whatsoever. And, I think bringing some more awareness, call it just a biological privilege or whatever. Gentlemen just don't think about that as in a lot of the same regard as we do for the, the FPO side. And it's been, I think, largely overlooked. And as I said, I've even, probably been subject of that, or been at fault for that, is what I'm trying to say, as a TD once or twice. So I don't think those are little, and I do think those are great steps and a step in the right direction for everybody to just increase the overall awareness. And I think one of the great points, whether it was Sarah Holcomb or another woman that had mentioned it, when you talk about more bathrooms being available, you're also then talking about the female contingency of spectators, because same idea, for the same reason that if you guys are, if bathrooms are scarce, the same could be said for a daughter or a wife or a spectator, or, or whoever else that also would benefit from having the bathrooms be just a little bit more accessible out on the course. So I think it's a very, very valid point and concern as well. What do we need to do? I'm going to really hit you with a good one here.
Oh, no.
What do we need to do to increase our FPO field sizes? Like, Majestic had 96 MPO and 3 FPO. Like, what? That's no better than it was 20 years ago. And that's, again, no slight on the Majestic. That's pretty. What do we need to do?
Oh, Terry. Oh, sorry, I lost you. Oh,
She's
sorry,
losing it,
sorry.
guys. She's just throwing
I dropped you.
No, you're all
I
good.
dropped you. Threw you
You're all
around.
good.
Okay. Are we good? Okay.
You're all good.
We're
Perfect.
awesome.
You're fine.
Okay. That's a great question. And honestly, if it's a question of how we get more women on tour, or how we get more women that are local to some of these big events to play these events, because we're in Illinois, Iowa, area. Illinois, but I know that they have a great field of women in this area, and maybe that shows in the field this weekend with 46, which or however many that that's a great size field. Especially talking about how there was 96 men at Zootown, or I think that's what you just
Majestic.
said.
Yeah, Majestic.
Majestic. Yeah, 46 is a great number. But I think if it's a question of how we get more women, regardless of whether or not they're on tour or they're in the area, it's hard to say. I think that again, starting with some of the things that we just talked about, making it somehow more inviting for women. Obviously, money speaks volumes, but again, that's that comes with growing the field. So it's sort of one of those weird balancing acts. But honestly, I think that if we can have more of us touring pros, somehow making it enticing for some of the locals, or we were out at Beaver State, and it was me and Zoe and Paige and Madison and then Sarah. We all went out to the lunchtime DGC, and we put on a women's clinic for the league there, and that was just a really cool thing to be a part of. And whether it be that, I don't know that any of those women actually played in the Beaver State Fling, but I think just making those personal connections with some of the local women might inspire them once they get to the open field, maybe to come to Beaver State and actually compete at Beaver State instead of just being a spectator on the side. I don't know. It's a tough thing, and even me taking the leap into the touring life was scary, and it is scary. It's still scary, and it's something that I love doing now, and it's been an amazing experience, and I'm glad that I've took the leap. But yeah, it's hard to say. I just want to be able to make more of those personal connections with some of the women that are near the events that we go to, and maybe try to just inspire them to take that leap into the open field. Or I don't know. It's tough.
To be fair, if you had the answer, you'd be a lot wealthier.
Right,
So
exactly.
that's really what it comes down to. We like to throw that question out to a lot of the women that we have on the show. But in general, you're right. There is no catch-all that everybody knows right now. Nobody, we've thrown a lot of things at the wall and we see what sticks. And sometimes it's so hard to determine if anything is helping or if it's just a natural growth of the sport. But
yeah. We're 40 years in, and of course we're seeing more women play, but we're still. The numbers are just so. They're such a disparity between the two of them on the FPO and MPO side. It's incredible, and I don't know if we're going to get it figured out or not in our lifetime, or maybe at all. And maybe it's
we're not leaving until we figure it out tonight.
Yeah, tonight we sit right here. I think that's part of it, though. Is it we're going to need to get a little bit more innovative. Is it money? How much of it's money versus all the other things that we said? Who knows? So
yeah. I do have to say, though, with the growing fields, even as they are, there seems to be some issues with, having enough spots for women nowadays signing up. Not to point out any particular tournament, but I do know of one that I'm going to miss out on because it was full. And I was kind of surprised by it because it's not really a number that is a surprising number nowadays. So yeah, that was a little disappointing for me to not be able to sign up for it because it's already full. But yeah, it's cool, but it's also something that I think maybe we need to reserve a little bit more room for some extra FPO players. But it doesn't happen. It doesn't happen often, but it has happened.
I do like that idea for tournaments, especially larger ones like this, where you reserve FPO players a specific size, whether it's 10 or 15% more than what you feel like you normally get or what you got last year, and then if they don't sign up after a certain date, you give it to the first people on the MPO waiting list. You try to shift that around because you don't want spots to go empty, but you do want to be able to, especially where we're at right now, let more FPO in if they are available or if they want to show.
Tell that to the Masters Cup 2 years ago. You'll get yourself into a fight.
I know I will. We had that discussion.
And again,
2 years ago.
That is constantly the question is, what is that magic reservation number? If you may say, well, we had 24 FPO last year. That's a great number. Do we reserve 28 or 32 or 36 for the next year? And then, and again, I'm just playing devil's advocate. Then the next year you have 18 sign up. And you don't even match your 24. And then, you know what I mean? I feel like we've had some of that problem happen. So it's a really tough thing to kind of pin down as to what that number is. But I agree with you. It's harsh to see any woman get turned away after a certain deadline because we're always trying to grow that FPO field. So I totally agree with you there. All right, so we're not solving all of the world's problems in disc golf tonight. We're just a few of them. We're in June, middle of June, almost exactly the middle of the year. Where's your state of mind in terms of being on tour? You mentioned you've taken this big leap of faith. You and your husband have been out on the tour. You guys pull a camper, and that's how you do most of your living. Where's your state of mind, both mentally and I'll say even where are you physically now that we're halfway through the year?
Luckily, knock on wood, I feel really good. Okay. I don't, I haven't had any, major injuries or anything like that. That's something that's starting to pop up here and there, you see. And, it's really unfortunate for those who are going through that right now. But so luckily I'm healthy physically and mentally. It's kind of I'm kind of at this point where this is where I kind of started my tour last year, although it was with Idlewild because Ledgestone was later last year, but so everything's kind of a little bit more familiar now, which is helpful because I think there was a lot of unknowns throughout the beginning of the season. There was a lot of courses that I hadn't played yet and a lot of events that I hadn't played yet. So that was really fun and really exciting. And now that we're getting back towards, the Midwest and the East Coast, things are starting to be a little bit more familiar. And so in that sense, it's getting a little easier. I kind of with Sunset Hills, I can probably get 2 practice rounds in there, even probably 1, but I'll probably get 2. Because it's more familiar to me now, and so I feel really good, and I'm sort of at the point where I'm not signed up for a ton at the moment. In the future, I'm sort of reevaluating what my tour holds for me right now, but yeah, my family is on the East Coast, so we're kind of at this point where we're close to family. Maybe we'll take a little break, but yeah, we haven't fully decided yet. So, but yeah, I feel good. Feel good.
Not that we want to see it, but what would you say if you had to guess right now? What would pull you off the tour that would either make you, be done with it or reconsider even playing as much as you do? What do you fear would be the number one thing that might pull you off of the tour life?
Probably at the moment, injury and or money, I guess.
Okay.
Just trying to maintain out here. It's a grind, as we have heard from everybody, whether or not you're, the top person, top MPO or FPO versus, somebody like me who's kind of, just chugging along and trying to do my best out there. But I mean, obviously the biggest thing would be injury, just for many reasons. I mean, other than disc golf, obviously you don't want to go through an injury because it could change a lot of things for you in your future. But so yeah, those two things are probably the biggest things.
Awesome. Well, that means you still have a great fresh perspective, which to me is, the money and the injury, those are usually obviously just physical things. But if you've got that fresh perspective and still the enjoyment and the fun and the curiosity of it all, as long as that's still strong, I feel like that can keep you going. All right.
Yeah, it's
we would love for you to shout out some sponsors or ways people can support you.
Yep.
I know I saw a post the other day, but how could people support you?
So shout out to Dynamic Discs, my sponsor, and I have tour fundraiser discs that are still for sale. I have a couple of different stamps you can choose from, so they're all trilogy molds, not just dynamic discs. So if you're looking for anything in particular, I have a couple of molds that or plastics that you might not be able to find right now, but just message me on Instagram or Facebook, and go follow I have a professional page on Facebook, Missy Gannon, with my PDJ number 85942, and you can kind of find some information out there. I've also kind of started like a little GoFundMe sort of page, but that's just for people that I've heard that maybe they don't really want a disc, or, they want to just contribute as much as they can without, a $25 to $30 investment. And so I just kind of started like a little fund page that you can find on my Facebook, that you can go to if you'd like to support me as well. But and just, little messages here and there and are always welcome. So, I love hearing from the fans, and it just kind of keeps me going to hear some positive messages and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Awesome. Well,
and shout out to my my life caddy, as I call him, Tom. He's been so supportive, and he's just I don't know. I mean, I say I couldn't do it without him, and I don't think he believes me, but I literally couldn't do it without him. So,
no, I see him out there all the time, and having that support network is great. And I will forever. I'll share it briefly with you. I don't know if I've ever told you, but when the conversation came about at the Worlds in Iowa a couple years ago, and Paige was talking to Bobby and Robert McCall, and there was just this big conversation about the idea of asking you to be a part of Dynamic Discs. And would it be more or less nerve-wracking as you were about to go out for your final 9? And I was just kind of in the vicinity of that conversation. Okay, I was eavesdropping, but I was in the vicinity of that conversation. And then for me to experience that moment, for then ultimately them go up and ask you to join the team, like, it was just a really special moment that, although I had nothing to do with it in any way, I was just a fly on the wall. It was really cool to see. And again, one of those types of moments that I take home from NAM Worlds, seeing the champions crowned and talking to them and living all of that's great. But to also have those special moments of just being a fly on the wall in that conversation was really awesome. So I don't know if I ever shared that with you, but I knew about it before even you did. And it was, it was awesome. No, it was great to see. So
that's cool. Yeah. And I have to shout out Paige Pierce, because she's was and is and continues to be a huge advocate of mine, and I for her. So, you know, I almost feel like she's like a second sponsor to me. She's just been super supportive, and yeah, we've kind of blossomed into this little friendship, which is pretty special to go back to from Ann Worlds to now, and yeah, and grow in that way. So it's been really cool.
It has been. Well, of course, Missy, thank you. I know last year you helped us out on some commentary and some other stuff on the media side. You did it multiple times. We want to, again, extend our thanks for that. And over here at SmashBoxx and at the Disc Golf Guy, we're just going to keep pushing things forward the best we can on the FPO side. And we love seeing your smiling face out there crushing drives and making long putts.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you guys. Thank you, SmashBoxx, and you guys for doing everything that you do for the FPO field and for disc golf in general. We all really appreciate it.
Glad to do so. All right, well, we'll see you in a couple days. Good luck this weekend in that great field of 45 women. Looking forward to that top 5 finish you're looking for. We'll see you out there.
You got that.
Thank you so much. Bye,
all
guys.
Right, have a good night.
Bye.
See ya.
You too.
Again, Dynamic Disc own Missy Gannon. One of my favorite parts about Missy out on the course is knowing that she is easily one of the best circle 2 or long range putters that we have out there.
I think of her and Elisa Fakis.
Yeah, just so deadly from long range. Just knowing like, okay, well, this is a 45-footer, and I won't even bat an eye whatsoever if she knocks this one in. So pretty cool to see. All right, there is that's what we have for our 2 main guests tonight. I want to thank Jackson and Missy for joining us both. Again, kind of short notice, but both very exciting to have them here. What else did we see out in the world of, we'll say, PDGA news? Articles, write-ups, Instagrams, you know, all the stuff that you love to follow. Anything else?
I love to follow. Thanks. I appreciate it.
There was a recap video from top 10 shots, I believe, from Beaver State Fling was released in the last few days.
Yeah, we've seen CCDG put some of this. Sometimes so does Jomez.
So did the PDGA in this
PDGA
case.
does that as well. As far as PDGA goes, there's really not a lot of news this particular week as far as releases or announcements. But some of the other things that I saw on social media, speaking of one, Hannah Macbeth, who took second at the KC Wide Open, she apparently went to a particular doctor this weekend or today and found out she has a torn piriformis muscle and a sprained ankle. So she's going to need some kinesiology tape and a little bit of rehab. And that particular muscle looked like it was in the buttocks region. So she was having it was messing with her knee. I think she was having some soreness and close to her sciatic nerve, which is why she was having apparently some leg issues. So we'll hope she gets on the mend rather quickly. And she pulled out of Ledgestone. So for all of you that want to be aware of that, Hannah needs to get well soon. She's one of my favorite people to chat with on a lot of the social medias. She's a lot of fun.
Oh, stay tuned, Hannah. I've got a hot take coming in the after show.
What?
It's not that hot.
That, and we talked a little bit about the Ulta World article about is disc golf doing enough for women? The whole they kind of played both sides. I feel of the argument. I kind of want to. They start out with the whole fact that a lot of people, including I think us, have said a rising tide will lift all boats, meaning that if the men,
unless you're on the Titanic, right?
A rising tide doesn't really help you too much if you got a hole in your boat.
I just wanted to be clear about that. But go on.
They kind of equated it to trickle-down economics, which for a lot of people is
now we're going to get political.
Is a negative connotation. In that just because everybody is getting lifted up doesn't necessarily mean that I hate to use the term, but the bottom of our fields don't necessarily see that. And we're talking about the media, particularly for the women. So I think there was kind of I don't know, tongue-in-cheek isn't the right word, but a discussion about that particular point. But we have seen the number of our women grow. The question is it growing at a faster rate than the men? it doesn't appear to be so. Ellen Widboom made some really good comments about things like, restrooms and whether or not, when they have to tee off so early, the course not even being ready. She said that there have been times she's tried to go to a course and the park has been closed.
Yeah, sure.
When she has an 8 to 8:30 a.m. tee time and she shows up there at 7 and the bars to get into the park aren't even open. And these are things that are definitely need to be addressed. These are professional athletes that we need to make sure that these things are accommodated for. We need to make sure that they are comfortable, that they have everything that they need to perform at the top level. One of the issues, and I almost hate to get into it, that where I had a little bit of qualms with was she had asked about teeing later in the day, that maybe the women shouldn't always tee off in the morning. And I made the discussion point or the argument that said, just based on numbers, that's how it works. It's unfortunate that by the time the lead card of FPO tees off, if they want live coverage, that is, if you want live coverage, the women have to go first because the field is so much smaller. We can get through the entire women's field and still have time to recharge, get lunch before we need to go out for the men's round. If the men go first, the men finish up at, we'll just say 1 o'clock. The lead card goes off at 1. That's a 3 to 4 hour round. When the women then go off at 3 or 3:30, the camera crews aren't there.
Yeah.
So that's why for live, the women almost have to go. Now, there's going to be some really tough decisions that are going to need to be made when the women's fields get bigger. Like if we start seeing 50, 60, 70 women show up, and the men now have 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 120, we're not going to have all the time in the world. So things are going to have to be decided about where resources and money goes and camera people. So that's one of the other avenues. And I brought up one of the points that said, look at this particular weekend where we saw a bunch of A tiers being covered, whether it's the Majestic or KC. I don't know if there's any coverage at Zootown, but we see these A tiers that traditionally, and I'm not calling out the ones this particular weekend because we've seen it all year and years past, that will pay for coverage of MPO, but then have no or not enough funds to cover FPO. It's like, great, we're paying these crews to come in and cover the men, but sorry, we don't have the resources for the women. And for better or worse, I can't say if it's right or wrong. Do we care about covering a field of 3 women?
Yeah, and I was just going to say that, again, this gets into really an old discussion even, but it's probably worth just rehashing it briefly, is you look at like the MPO division, we'll say at the Minnesota Majestic this weekend with 96 players, the amount of talent that's there and how deep that talent can go. And then you look at, let's just say even you had 4 women playing and you have a full card in that sense playing on the FPO side. If you're just looking at numbers, somebody covering the second MPO card or maybe even the third, depending on who's on it,
will get way more views.
Will get more views and exposure. For maybe whoever is sponsoring that video coverage or that crew, they will get more views than someone that would be covering the FPO lead card. Again, that's just simply the numbers, and I feel like I can speak to that because I've been in that role, in that position, possibly more than anyone. We have to determine whether it's the media crews or it's the events or it's the governing bodies or governing entities or event series, whomever, we have to determine where that's all going to intersect. What carries more weight? What is more significant in terms of just the desired outcome? Is it the fact that there's coverage there? Is it the fact that it's as deep? Who should or shouldn't care about the ultimately the numbers, of the viewership? And that's just something to consider. And a lot of people, this is, I almost hate to bring up this subject because this right now, I'm asking it as a question, but this is also when a lot of people start throwing around the, what you should do remark. and they're easy to tell a lot of other people what they should be doing with their time and their money and their resources. I'm not saying what anyone should be doing. I'm just saying those are all questions that need to be asked, and then you and your sponsors or whomever need to come up with the answers from there. I'm still on the ticket of, I'd love to see, at any risk of sounding in any way sexist, I would love to see an all-female crew or a primary female camera crew out there. And I'm not saying, I only think for the relatability. This is not because I think men are better camera operators than women or vice versa, or anything silly like that. I just think for the relatability, it would be great to see someone, and sure. I say that because women would love to see more coverage. Primarily, you see more women asking for more women's coverage than you do men. I would love to see a group of dedicated women say, "Let's take this up. We're gonna go do this," just like all the other crews that have done it in some capacity. I would just love to see that. I think that'd be empowering. I think that'd be awesome.
It would be awesome, and just I'd love to see women do a lot of things, but in general, there are specific industries that just have less female representation. Whether you like it or not. I mean, if you look at the numbers, engineers tend to be a majority of men, and I would love to see more female engineers come in to the field, or IT workers. The IT workers is I go to these conventions and it's 95% men, and I would love to see more female IT workers. It's a bigger societal issue, is what we're digging into at this point. But I don't necessarily think that, right now saying, having the excuse for a lot of people to be, well, if the women don't like it, we should get women out there to do it. I know you're not saying that particularly.
No, be very clear. I'm not saying that.
That is one of the arguments I've heard. On the other hand, should there be a PDGA? And I'm not saying there should, but should there be a PDGA stipulation that says, hey, if you're paying for coverage for MPO, you have to pay for at least one round of coverage for FPO, or for A tiers and above, or NTs or Pro Tours and above, whatever that line is. Should we look into something like that to truly force and push more coverage? And I don't have the answer. I don't know if there's a right or wrong for that. I mean, usually anytime you force someone to do something, it's not necessarily the best decision.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I don't know. So,
well, here's what I'll ask then, which kind of piggybacks on this. Earlier, we talked with Missy about what we need to see in FPO, or she had suggested, or we all talked about, maybe the elephant in the room of just more money. Here's my hot take. You could guarantee, I feel like, you could guarantee 10 grand added to every FPO Pro Tour and National Tour event this year, and you won't see more than a 10% increase in participation. Guarantee 10 extra. Money's not our problem. It's a problem. It is not.
I think it depends on how, if you guarantee deeper payout with that 10 grand rather than the tip. I don't know for sure.
I still don't think we would.
I don't know. I mean, there are certain sports that tend to attract more women. You've got, volleyball, figure skating, tennis.
Watch yourself. You're about to get in a lot of trouble.
Soccer. But, but you don't typically see a lot of women playing football. You don't see a lot of, I mean, there is basketball, but the percentages are smaller. And it's just a general, and that's, again, a bigger societal issue. And I don't even know if it's an issue. It's just societal decisions. I mean, you want to make the argument that it starts in elementary school, where at some point women are turned off to sports. I think we had this during the women's committee. I believe there was discussion from one of the one of the women we had on the broadcast that talked about that. I don't remember if it was, I assume it was Sarah Holcomb. I think that was her coverage that she was talking about, but and where that changes. And again, say the same thing about engineering and math and sciences. You know, they're at some point the STEM, as it's called in school, the STEM stuff that is where is the turnoff happening? We don't know. I mean, if I had that answer, holy crap.
I know you don't either. I've been around. I think back to the late 90s, and I think about seeing some of our biggest tournaments that have anywhere from 1 to 10 women signed up in them. And then I think about the growth of the sport, and I think about all these bigger tournaments and all the added cash and all of the things that I've seen grow and expand. And yes, we have more women playing, but the percentages are still the same, that 5 to 7% of our membership being women. And I don't think more money, I'm not saying we shouldn't get it there, but I don't think that's the winning ticket. I don't think that's the golden solution.
That seems to be, you're right, but I think that seems to be the easiest solution. And I say that easiest because they're all hard, but if you usually just throwing money at something tends to be the easiest solution. Because it requires the least amount of effort.
Sure, and it might and far from being the most effective. And
I don't know.
And I can go as far as saying, now I don't remember all of my exact numbers, but a few years ago when I was running a ton of tournaments in Wisconsin, I made registration for events like $10. I'd have every single division, all normal prices, and for like a full year, maybe a year and a half or 2 years, every single division that had women, I ran it as a $10 entry and then still had normal payouts. That I saw no increase in participation. Mm-hmm. Like there was no, all of a sudden I didn't get 50 women at an event. The numbers didn't go up there either. And that's where I kept thinking, okay, so maybe money isn't a solution here.
Well, as I just made a joke on the board, we're two middle-aged white guys talking about FPO problems. Let's talk about disc golf diversity next.
Yeah, exactly. I get it. But that goes hand in hand with what I said 10 years ago at a meeting. At the time, we had 20 guys sitting around in a room trying to get more participation in Wisconsin disc golf for women. Mm-hmm. And then finally, I said that exact same thing. I'm like, we're 20 guys sitting around in a room trying to get more women to play. Whatever we've been doing for the last 20 years hasn't worked, and I don't know anything we're going to do now. So that's why I love to ask people like Missy.
But here's what I'll say, ladies of the chains, go listen to their podcast. I think they have a much better insight onto this type of stuff than we probably will. If they ever want to talk to Terry, particularly, I think he has better insight in a lot of the tournament coverage stuff than even I would for certain. There's always a discussion to be had, but I would feel way more comfortable listening to a bunch of FBO players talk about FBO problems than us. Not that we don't have or shouldn't have. Not that we don't have or shouldn't have an opinion, but I think our opinion can only hold so much water.
Well, we'll just keep putting out videos and hope that helps. Well, and other stuff we do, but we'll keep doing that. All right. I'm checking out the board. I think we're going to go ahead and call the regular show. I'm going to try and get out of here at an earlier than normal hour here.
You're
tonight.
Heading right down.
Pretty much right down. So, got Peoria. I've got a little Chicago visit in store, and then Peoria by tomorrow. We're going to have the skins match that Dana talked about last week. We're going to have that going on Thursday. There's some stuff taking place. They've got C tiers and flex starts and all of that going on over the next few days. Of course, the event Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And then Monday, I turn around and meet up with another buddy from Wisconsin and head off to Finland. So, yeah, once I'm out of Wisconsin, I'm gone. International stuff. So,
yeah, we have some stuff to talk about in the after show.
Oh, we do.
We'll get right into that.
All right, here we go. We're going to close things out. I want to again thank Jackson Sullivan, Jacko, along with Simon Feasy, both of RPM discs. If you can, go out and buy yourself some RPM discs by one of our retailers if you're here stateside. And if you're going to wait, that's fine too, because I'm going to get an order in. I want to support those guys. But thank you guys for joining us. And, of course, our Kansas City Wide Open FPO champion this last weekend, Missy Gannon. Keep an eye on her as she moves over to the Ledgestone in a very, very deep field of 45.
I need her to start throwing a lot further so the Cannon nickname sticks. I can't.
Yeah, well, I'm sure she can. So we'll look forward to seeing her and the rest of the FPO field battling it out this upcoming weekend at the Ledgestone. So for Johnny V and myself, that's podcast 252. Stick around for the after show. We got some giveaways and some extras and bonuses and exclusives and all that other stuff. We see you then when you step inside the Smashbox.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the SmashBoxxTV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashBoxxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. I didn't see you click the button. Back to SmashBoxxTV's podcast 252 After Show. You said, "Are you ready?" And then I looked, and then there was a button.
I said, "Are you ready? 3, 2," and then I grabbed and took a drink of water. I put it down, and then I hit the button, and you kind of sat there.
I wasn't paying attention.
Well,
here we are. Nobody's paying attention. We're in the after show.
Paul Martin, this is not the after show. This is the original after show, the one, the only, the finest of after shows. We don't need to throw extra words in there to distinguish ourselves like we're some sort of carbon copy knockoff. Not that anybody would. I'm just saying we don't need to do that.
The phrasing and the idea of an after show is 100% authentic by Johnny V.
Yeah, nobody else in the world has ever done an after show until we did it. I didn't steal the idea from anybody.
Yeah, exactly. Well, we're here tonight. Looks like we got some sweet action on the board. All of our regulars and then some. Shout outs to people like Ace Run Productions, who frequently support us. Zach Pajak, thank you, Zach. Christy M's on the board. Aaron and Beth. Aaron and Beth, you need to tell us, there's your Minnesota shout out. When you guys are watching, are you guys like shoulder to shoulder on the same like screen, but then typing in on different devices? How do you guys consume when you're watching us? Because you both chime in, one right after another. There's no way you have time to log out, and the other one's, no, I gotta type something. Okay, log out. Now I'm gonna type it. You guys definitely have two different devices going for your interaction.
All right. Our agenda tonight. First things first. I want to talk real quickly about Patreon.
No.
It's not going away.
Oh, okay.
Don't worry, Terry. I was reading one of the blogs that Patreon puts out, and it was not obviously directed at anybody particular, but one of the things that they brought up is that said, what's one of the things you cannot do? Run a raffle.
Oh, good thing we just have giveaways.
Yeah, we just have giveaways. And a raffle is considered anything you need to purchase to be part of. So technically our Patreon giveaways are not a part of the terms of service for Patreon.
Oh, those effing TOSs.
So they did give some good tips on how to get around that. So tonight, and if you're listening, God bless you. If you're watching live, this is your chance. If you go to SmashBoxxTV/weekly giveaways, one word, weekly giveaways, and fill that form out, you will be eligible for the weekly Patreon giveaway. But you need to do this every week.
What?
Yeah, because I'm going to erase the list every week. And this might be the only time I ever tell you that the actual address. But in order to be legally part of the Patreon giveaway, I need to make sure it's open up to everybody. So there's your address. Patreon supporters are always entered in. You don't have to do anything. But if you're not a Patreon supporter and you want to be part of our weekly giveaways, you need to go to SmashBoxx.tv/weekly giveaways and fill out the form, and you will be entered into our weekly giveaways. So good luck. I hope you remember that. You might never be mentioned again, but it'll always be out there. So there you have it.
Yeah, we should. I like the idea as it's coming in off the board is we should make the URL super long and crazy.
I thought about giving someone like the Google Doc one with the really
yeah, exactly.
But
no, say you have to send into us. Then we send you a postcard with the Google Doc with the address, and that's how you have to get it. Send a self-addressed stamped envelope.
So that's out there. So you have like another. Before I haven't even pulled up the Patreon stuff, so you have like another 20 or 15 minutes to get that filled out. If you're live watching, please go out and fill it out. Be eligible to win tonight. Tonight, actually, we're giving away one of our bigger disc member packages.
What?
Yeah, so you're going to actually be eligible to win one of the bigger packages.
Yes, bigger packages.
Sign me up. I got an email from Disc Member today.
What? No, you didn't. You're such a celebrity. What'd they say to you, Johnny?
I'm sure it was specifically right towards me and the rest of the distribution list.
Dear Disc Member.
But me specifically, they were saying due to tight margins, they are no longer advertising as a minimum of $50 per bag. So instead, what they're saying is it's going to be $40 to $50.
Okay.
And whenever possible, they're going to exceed the $50, but they will say a minimum of $40. And they address some other things that they have. They want to do more frequently give away shirts. They want to make sure that I think the manufacturers get them the discs at an earlier time, because I think they kind of pushed that first of the month a few times and made it like a couple days late. So they want to make sure that is. And they had a nice long email. So if you are a disc member, you should have gotten that email, as I did as well. So I want to thank Disc Member for their support. And if you do want to become a Disc Member subscriber, you can go to discmember.com and sign up. And for like $25 a month, you'll get a minimum of $40, but more likely closer to $50, we're going to say, dollars worth of value every month in discs and product and this and that.
All right. Well, thank you to Disc Member. They are very gracious with us. And we are glad to push you guys out there and go get signed up. Get some stuff. Get a good deal every month. Just shows right up. I kind of like that. Yes, as Disc Golf Nerd has said, that is some serious fine print type stuff leading off the after show. It is. And to reiterate, if you are a Patreon subscriber or supporter of ours, you are automatically entered in, just as you were for the last 2 or 3 years. You are automatically entered in every single week. You do not have to do anything different.
Continue.
You don't have to change or increase your Patreon support necessarily. You don't have to do anything different. Just keep doing what you're doing, and you're still eligible. In fact, today I played a little bit of catch-up. I think I got 4 or 5 Patreon supporter items out. So those went out today, and then somebody wrote me like right as I was about to leave, and I hate it because now I'm going to be for sure gone for the next 2 weeks. But I'm pretty well caught up. If you're still missing something, and I cannot stress this enough, whether it is from SmashBoxx Patreon giveaway, or the Disc Golf Guy, or any other endeavor, if you are ever missing something from me that is rightfully owed to you, please do not hesitate to reach out to me on one of my social media accounts and gently or firmly remind me, depending on how many times you've had to do it. I do not take offense to it. We saw someone at Beaver State a few weeks ago. I believe it was Paul. Paul said, "Hey guys, I hate to even bring this up, but I think you owe me a disc." And we're like, if we owe you a disc, we owe you a disc.
Yeah, don't be shy.
And then I brought the disc the next day, and I didn't see Paul.
I
was
saw
gonna
him
hand
twice, but Terry never saw
I
him.
was going to hand it to him. So, Paul, shoot me a message. If you guys got something coming, we want you to have it. I have too much stuff. So,
And everybody likes it when their name gets mentioned on Smashbox, right?
yeah.
All right. Andrew Clayson and Barney Davis, respond to my messages so I can get your T-shirt size so I can ship out this week's or this quarter's T-shirts to everybody. So, Andrew Clayson and Barney Davis, I'm calling you out. You should see a message in your Patreon or your email.
All right. So, is Terry going to be at Idlewild? Zach says. Zach, I know I saw you there a year or two ago. I think 2 years ago. I believe you and your daughter, maybe. I will probably physically be there. We're going to talk about that. Brings up another good point. We'll talk about that in a moment. But I believe I will physically be at Idlewild. Keith says I owe you a hug. I added the big. Yeah, you'll get a big hug. Just come up and ask for it, or nudge me. Or hand me a handful of beers. Any one of them will usually get you a hug. Kyle says that the link didn't work. Is there any chance that you put up a broken link?
No, I've seen
we got
3, 4, 5, 6.
Kyle, look at you guys.
Weekly giveaways.
Wow, there's people are already in it. We've already got a few people.
And if you're a Patreon supporter, don't bother signing up because I'll just sort it by name and get rid of your double entries this week.
Hopefully we do the Hall of Fame Classic this year. It will not be in a live capacity, but I believe that needs to get worked out. I booked a ticket to go there, so hopefully I get hired to actually film some Frisbee throwing stuff out at the Hall of Fame. But I already did book a ticket. I got ahead of that one. Terry, any luck fixing the strip threads on your camera mounts? Funny you asked that, Disc Golf Nerd. No. Short answer is no. My cameras officially are gone. Feels weird. I'm going to Peoria and then Finland, and as of right now, I don't have cameras in my hand. They were sent off. I have a Square Trade warranty program who have always done me well. Shout out to Square Trade. Throughout the last few years, I've owned them for anything. And they have been shipped off to the fix-it facility of Square Trade, and let's just hope that they fix them very quickly and then return them very quickly to me.
I really, honestly, really want to know how it happened.
Here's what I think happened.
Because you said you've had them for years, and one of the first times I touched them and put a monopod in one of them, like they got stripped.
Yep.
And I don't think I did anything crazy. Yeah. I didn't touch your camera hardly at all.
Yeah. So here's what I think happened. And to correct you, I've owned cameras now, maybe a dozen of them for 10 years, and I've never stripped a camera mount. I'm with Johnny for one weekend, and two cameras get stripped. So I mean, if we really
don't, and this is why
we talked about we're not engineers or scientists here.
Correct,
but
and I 100% agree. I just don't know how it happened.
Here's what I think happened. I think I don't think you over tightened them. I think there was something that maybe it went in. There's a better term for it, but it wasn't a good thread.
Okay.
And then at that point, it may have grabbed one of the threads, grabbed some of the metal from one of the mounts, and stripped it partially. And then I think when we swapped cameras, once we realized you had the wrong one or I had the wrong one, you took that same monopod and put it into my camera, and then stripped that one in the process. That's what I think happened.
Awesome. So I don't
obviously an honest mistake.
Yeah,
but
and I don't feel like it's my fault, so to speak, because for whatever, if there was something on the thread, then there's nothing I could do, because I'm like all I kept thinking, and I felt really bad because I kept thinking well,
you broke my shit.
I'm like, was it how I was carrying it? Because I'm like, I kind of carried it underneath by the camera. Sometimes I carried it by the top, but I'm like, was the weight like stripping it that way? Or I was thinking, like how did I do this? And I've handled cameras before. I've put them on monopods. I've put them on tripods. I've never had an issue before. But then suddenly I'm like, well, what the crap? So if there was something stuck on the thread of the monopod that we had screwed in, then I can kind of understand
Don't use we here. So
you don't think you put that monopod in?
No. So what I think I'm saying, when you put the initial monopod onto one of the cameras, you didn't have it properly aligned and threaded the very first time that morning. So you screwed it in. It wasn't a perfect screw.
I'm guessing it would happen Saturday then, because it worked Friday and Saturday. It was Sunday.
Correct.
We had
No.
issue.
I'm 100% convinced it was the final day, because the threads for both of us were fine Friday and Saturday. And on the final day, you went to screw in the camera, and at that point, it was just misthreaded or slightly off. It grabbed the metal, then you took the other camera, put that same thing back in there.
Yeah.
That's what I think happened.
Oh, because is that because we were like running a couple minutes late, and then you grabbed my other camera because I had the one with the battery while Ben was bringing the car around?
Exactly.
So it's Terry's fault.
Not at all. Cross-threaded. Thank you, Nova. I was trying to think of the right
Nova.
dang word. Yeah, sorry, Amp. I know that's not an exciting story, but
it's really not that exciting, but it's really funny because we just I felt really bad. In fact, I looked on Amazon for all these different products that you could like drill out new screw holes, and I was thinking, well, if that could work, and maybe you put like a spring in it. It's like a special spring that then the edge breaks off, so it basically threads it.
Sure.
And I was just looking at all these different things to do, and then you said you were bringing it to Square.
Yeah,
so.
Well, Square Trade, they have them. They will likely get them fixed very quickly, and then they'll be ready to go. Thank you. Cross thread was the term I was going for.
Nova's so smart.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's what happened there, and we'll see how things go. This weekend, though, I did want to bring up quickly. This weekend is yet another unique Disc Golf Pro Tour weekend in the sense that right when the beginning of the year, to give you the full backstory, at the beginning of the year, I was in Arizona, and I had a brief conversation, I think after the first day of the Memorial. That's when it was very late in the game when Steve Dodge had reached out to Johnny in particular about helping do the show switching for the Memorial, but I was already at the Memorial really with my own plan and own agenda at that point, and he had everything else taken care of, Steve Dodge did. So Johnny was switching the show. After the first night, I got a call from Nate Heinold, Ledgestone TD, and said, well, if you're not going to be necessarily involved with the Pro Tour this year in a direct capacity, I for sure at least want you at my event, no matter what. Let's lock you into my event, and I want you to do some social media things and some behind the scenes, and really it's kind of a new role and a new opportunity. And so fast forward a few months when the Pro Tour talked about having all of SmashBoxx come back, I was fully committed to what Nate had proposed months ago. I feel like that's the right and the fair thing to do, is to keep that commitment. So this weekend, Paul and Pete Ulibarri are going to, in fact, have their own booth set up in Arizona. They will be calling all the shots, I believe, on both FPO and MPO side. And I will physically be there. I'll be there tomorrow, but I will be doing a lot of other things. And it will really be in direct conjunction with the Ledgestone Insurance Open, not so much on a official Pro Tour media capacity. Although they'll overlap, and I'll help wherever I can. But so it's going to be a unique weekend, as some people were asking where I'll be or what I'll be doing. I think I'll be wearing a few different hats and a few different roles, and I'm really excited to do so, because I think it will only complement what is also going on. Of course, there's post-production, there's live, stuff with SmashBoxx, and then having, photography and whatever things I'll be doing. Hopefully they don't suck. That's where I'm setting the bar. Just try not to suck this weekend.
Sure. A lot of jokes. I got a new toy. Look at this.
Yeah.
Look at this toy. I'm gonna see if I can.
So so if you're keeping track at home, Johnny breaks my absolute necessities and then goes out and buys himself new toys. That's how things run around here.
To be fair, I bought this a while ago. It just shipped recently when it was announced. This is a new switching device. So, because I use these to switch the show when we're doing the broadcasts. Each button has a different thing. I've got like a throw cam, catch cam, reaction cam, roaming cam, all the different graphics that we see, whole previews, little maps, whole stats, replay, ads, all that fun stuff. And I used to have this little deck that Terry has now, which only had 15 buttons. And now I've got a deck that has 30 buttons, or 4 times 8, 32 buttons.
Wow.
I'm super excited. that my deck's bigger than yours.
Yeah. So
Well, anyway, so yes, so this is pretty cool. I'm really excited about this particular little piece of equipment because before I honestly was running out of space to put all the different graphics and things that we want to do on the broadcast without having to click around. This just makes it way easier for me, and it also doubles up as the podcast switcher. So when I want to switch a shot in the podcast, I have a whole separate theme for that particular thing. And these things are awesome. These stream decks, even if you don't do switching, they work for a lot of different computer assisted things like Premiere and video editing and all this other fun stuff. So it's pretty cool. I'm really I'm sadly excited. But you want to know what I wasn't excited about? Someone handed it to me a couple days ago, and they're like, "Oh, hey, is this yours?" I was like, "Yeah, thanks. I was expecting it." They're like, "Cool. I found it outside." I'm like, "What do you mean?" And I always have things delivered to my office. She's like, "Yeah, it was on the sidewalk outside." I said, "What?" I had Amazon deliver it. They're like, "Yeah, I'm guessing it was one of those delivery people from Amazon." They literally put it outside downtown Milwaukee, just down the street, right outside the door, even though it says Suite 200 on it. Not even inside the vestibule area. Just literally, she's like, "I just happened to be walking. I saw a package. I looked at the name, saw your name, so I grabbed it." I'm like, "Well, thank you.
Thanks for checking out my package."
Yeah, thanks for checking out my package. And I was very, very, very unhappy, and I am going to write a nice message to Amazon because this is the only.
You think Jeff will reply to you?
I'm hoping Mr. Bezos, or as I like to call him, Jeffy Jeff,
Yeah.
my name for him.
You don't call him Mr. B?
I don't. No, that's a little weird. That's
Yep.
that's too much Saved by the Bellish.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, I got different. We
Belding, Bezos, yeah.
Mr. Belding and Mr. Bezos.
It's definitely confusing.
So having them literally just leave it on the sidewalk outside of my office building, I was very disappointed with.
Well, at least a coworker found
Luckily,
it and
a
stuff.
coworker found it.
Yeah, that's pretty random.
Yeah. Had they even just left it inside the front doors, I would have been even a little more comfortable with it. But.
Yeah, because to be clear, your office is, like you just said, in downtown Milwaukee. So imagine any other large city.
Yeah. Hundreds of people walk by.
Yeah, and just out on one of the sidewalks in front of a very large office building. Kind of, not so bright.
So, what else do we have? Do we have anything else before we do our Patreon giveaway tonight?
I don't have anything in particular. I think now would be a good time for the giveaway.
All right, well, let me take the names that are here.
So, Johnny V, and it looks like we had, a dozen or so of you get in on the action.
14 people.
Wait, was there a duplicate in there? Oh, no. What do we have, a husband-wife combo?
Maybe, yeah.
Or brother-sister? Or conjoined twins? I guess anything's possible.
Conjoined twins.
Right? How
Sure.
many conjoined... this is a search for Google, but how many conjoined twins are there out there right now?
I don't know. But
You would take a guess.
I couldn't even. Right away, I'm getting rid of Wes Kepi, who signed up when he didn't need to because he's a Patreon
Wes,
supporter.
you're already a supporter.
So I got rid of your duplicate. So ultimately, we have tonight 221 people entered into our weekly giveaway.
Holy cow.
Yeah, that's awesome. Let me bring up the normal pages and get everything entered in. Terry, what number should we pick tonight?
We're talking conjoined twins here. So I think 2 is the only appropriate number.
Not conjoined triplets.
I have never seen
Nor
a
have I.
2020 featuring them. Not to say they don't exist. I'm
Nor
sure
have
they
I.
do.
I'm sure they are. I'm sure they do. All right, so we're going to take the second number generated. First number was 71. Second number is 195. So that is 195. Cy Spencer. Congratulations, Cy Spencer. I do not want to show all that. Whoops. Sorry, Cy. If everyone, I might have to cut that out. Caught your email and your home address. I forgot to block some of that. So, congratulations, Cy. You have won tonight's Patreon giveaway.
Thank you so much, Cy. And that will likely Yeah, that'll likely go out in about 2 weeks, we're hoping for, because that's how long before I'll return. Brian Kilgore, thank you so much. He said, thanks for all you do, as he super chatted. I believe that's Brian from down in Florida. So thank you so much, Brian. We appreciate that greatly. All right. So anything in particular to the Ledgestone this weekend? I know we talked about the numbers. 45 women's field has to be one of the largest FPO fields in history, outside of maybe a Worlds or
a USWDGC.
Even that. I can't imagine a USWDGC had a larger FPO field. And, well, I think actually there was in that article. Wasn't there a mention in the article?
I'm not looking at that article anymore.
All right. Well, gosh, sexist. So somewhere in that article, I think it mentioned how big. But nonetheless, anyone missing from Ledgestone this weekend?
Hannah.
Outside of Hannah? On the FPO side, that's a legit call. How about on MPO?
Well, I'm just looking
at
previous
champions.
I'm looking at FPO, and I see Kat, Paige, Sarah, Jen Allen, Bjerkes, Weiss, Cox, Walker, Fakis, Van Dyken, Haley King. I mean, clearly the overseas contingent.
Okay, yep.
We're not seeing your Evelina, your Kristen Tatar, the other women over in across the pond. But as far as U.S. based women, I believe that is a majority of our field that is touring. I mean, there's a few. I can think regional women that, a Liz Carr that,
sure,
might or could have shown up. We see Sarah Lamberson from the PDGA is on this list as well. Nova, of course, is on this list. Is Kim? I don't see Kim.
Kim Scott Wood?
No,
wrong division. Kim
G. I'm going to mess up the name. So, Nova's partner.
Oh, Kim Gianola.
Thank you, Gianola. Okay. I wanted to throw an extra C in there,
I
like Giacanola or something.
I just didn't know where you were going.
No, I know. I don't see Kim. I don't see Kim on here, but I
okay.
do see Nova on here. So, I wasn't sure where.
Okay. Well,
other than that, I'm looking and I don't see anybody really missing. At this point.
Do we have Christy on there? Who's out on the board?
Christy King?
Nope. Christy King would be a good pull from the West Coast.
Christy King.
I was thinking
Christy
more
Moore.
about Christy Moore.
I don't see Christy Moore on this list.
Okay. So,
come on
the MPO side, I think one of the more notables that I believe has won this in the past.
Josh Anthon.
Him.
He's on this list.
Okay, good. Although
Nate Sexton.
This is my insider tip.
Stay away from Anthon.
Josh,
don't pick
like
him for
Steve
fantasy.
Rico, and they're good friends. Sometimes his involvement in a tournament will hinge on a little bit more of a in the moment kind of feeling as to whether or not they feel or other priorities come up. And I know Steve has definitely had to pull out of events simply due to things being crazy at Legacy or whatever. But Josh, I feel like he didn't go to the one of the prior events because, as Steve put it, he said he just wasn't feeling it. And so, although he was signed up and pre-registered and everything else, he didn't end up making the trip. And if you're playing one of those fantasy leagues that I don't keep up on, I would say that could be a tough. There's a little bit of a gamble. That's the best way to put that. A little bit of a gamble there. All right. Nate Sexton.
Correct. Sexton, who is former champion just last year.
Sure. But not here.
Not here.
Interesting.
I mean, he made the decision early in the year that he was only going to hit X amount of events and he was going to be home for some events, and this just wasn't an event apparently that made the cut for him.
Yeah, and now we are seeing that Jomez in particular, who I know that definitely factored into where he was going to go and some of the opportunities that were in front of him. Jomez is at this event now.
I don't think that made that much of a difference, to be honest with you.
Okay.
I think it made a little bit of a difference in the fact that Nate could double up and do commentary at a lot of these, and maybe had that been announced, you're right, at the very beginning of the year, this could have been one he looked at. But my guess is, with his wife working on becoming a doctor, this is a pretty busy time for a lot of school, college. I mean, we're looking at possibly finals. A lot of colleges are out by now, but I don't know what her particular schedule is.
You know what month it is? I think she's like a doctor already. You're a little behind.
Is she officially a doctor?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. They bought a house in Washington.
I know they bought a house.
Yeah, you're just a little behind. I
didn't know if she officially got her doctorate.
Yeah, she's like big time.
And she's always been big time.
Yes. That's all I believe a done deal.
But in general, my guess is that did the event fill up in the MPO before the media change was announced, and would that have made any difference, or is this just a weekend he just decided to stay home in general because for whatever obligations that maybe she has?
Well, and to be fair, although it's very centrally located, knowing that you're coming to Peoria, they do have an airport, which I'm guessing is incredibly expensive to get in and out of because it's a small airport. Your next best guess is to go to a St. Louis or to go to a Chicago, whether it's O'Hare or Midway. Like, you're talking 2.5, 3 hours for most of your major airports too. So if he's coming from a place like Washington, either you're going to spend a lot more or you're going to have that extra travel, just to getting there, as opposed to when I think about going to Portland the last few weekends, like you're there and, within 15 or 20 minutes, you're at Blue Lake, for instance, or 30 minutes and you're out at the course. So we shall see. And Ryan Pilcher's got the insight, the down and dirty, saying he saw a picture of Josh Anthon on a plane with Drew Gibson. So hopefully they were coming to the tournament.
Yeah, that's
we could assume that to be the case, though.
I love Josh, but again, if I were putting money on fantasy this weekend, he's not a player that I could trust to be
present.
100, not present, but 100% in it. I would say it's just one of those things where he hasn't proven to me over the last couple events that his heart is in his game right now. So it would be a tough bet for me to make with him. Now, of course, he could come out this weekend and win.
Sure.
And shove it in everybody's face, but ultimately history the last couple weeks does not make him a good bet.
Okay. Yeah, no, I was going to say next week, this is kind of a little bit out of sorts to say it, and I'll admit I'm a little disappointed, although I'm not disappointed I'm going to Finland for the Toonie, but I am disappointed that I won't have any part of the Pro Masters Worlds that's taking place next week. That's going to be up at Smuggler's Notch. Clearly, a lot of our peers, people that we grew up with playing or being around in that age-protected division. It's such a beautiful location. Maybe, depending on if I'm around or not, you might be able to check in with Chris Young next week. He may have some on-the-ground insights and details.
Is anybody doing post-production?
I don't know. I just know I'm not. And I know that sounds a
well. There's. No
I just
reason.
know I'm. Yeah,
you have in the past, and now you're not.
Yeah,
so.
I've been involved with that, and I would have been gladly if asked to be involved this year. And then the opportunity to go to Finland came about. So at this point, I don't need to worry about it. Yeah,
I don't blame you.
I will miss it though, because again, those are so many of the people that you and I grew up with.
Sure, like a little bit, but while you're in Finland, you're thinking like, oh man, the Masters is going on.
That's true. Yeah, that's true.
Toonie!
Yeah, I'm not complaining. So
yeah,
and Chris on the board says woot. So I think he's excited that maybe you could check in with him. Now, I may or may not be available next week. If it is in fact 4 a.m., I think.
So you'd be just getting ready for bed.
I was just going to say, if I'm up still, which I hope I'm not, but if I am still awake, I will gladly jump in, or I may just not be available. So we'll see how that goes. And Chris says he's picking up Greg Hosfeld, the Miniac, from the airport tomorrow, which is very, very cool. Elizabeth, I know you're out there from Kansas City. You were talking about something about being in Milwaukee. You just were, maybe? I think you said you played our local Dretzka and Brown Deer Parks, and then you were thrown up in the Walgreens bathroom. Is that what you just posted?
Seriously?
I don't know, something like that. If not, that's what I'm going to say she did. But yeah, okay. It's good to know if you were in Milwaukee and you didn't step inside the Smashbox. That's just gonna say it's a little disappointing.
Well,
that's the case.
You get that.
So, I don't really have too much else.
I think we can probably call it a weekend or a night. This is the after show, so technically a lot of people are listening to this on Friday. So, getting after that first round of Ledgestone,
Yep. Ledgestone. God. It's just wrapping my head around the whole 3-day weekend.
This weekend we'll have, I know we announced it last week, but we'll have Paul and Pete Ulibarri doing the commentary. So I'll be working with them probably tomorrow and the next day to get their stuff set up. They have all the equipment all shipped to them already. I sent Paul some notes and said, hey, this is what you probably want to do. He said he would get right on that. So we're gonna do that.
Yeah, I announced that a few minutes ago. But also Christy mentions the Wisco Disco taking place. That is an awesome local event to us here in Milwaukee area. It's actually about an hour west of us, taking place that Ladies First Disc Golf puts on. That's Jenny Sanfilippo, along with a slew of women that help organize that and make that all happen for the Wisconsin Dolls. And just an all-around awesome women's-only event that I think is in its 3rd or 4th or maybe even 5th year. So very cool to see them out there. And I'm pretty sure it's a sold-out crowd of 72
That's
or 90 or 1,000 or whatever. Yeah, just killing it. So very, very cool to see for them. All right, guys. That terribly show. Got it, Carver. Carver, you backed off. You were trolling me this morning on my video, and
that's awesome.
And then I came back at you, and then you backed off. But all good, buddy. All good. We'll have another showdown someday if you'd like. We're gonna call it, guys. Thank you guys for joining us. This has been SmashBoxxTV's podcast episode 252 after show. We appreciate all our Patreon supporters who are always in the drawings, whether you like it or not. We hope that you win some stuff. For Johnny V, Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, we'll see you from the Ledgestone Insurance Open this weekend on the Disc Golf Pro Tour. We'll see you then. You step inside the Smashbox.